firm boundary, thank you so much, it was nice to talk to you, have a nice evening, versus feeling guilty or feeling like, put on the spot or they didn't get to talk, then people really get the message when you're firm. When there's a sense of uncertainty in yourself, that inadvertently leaves open a door for people to keep opening questions and for clients to feel sort of backed into a corner. So
yeah, I love it. I'm sorry.
No, please go on.
I love, the firm, the other word I would use is clear. So when you hear Jamie use the word firm, one of the things you can think about is, I have a very clear boundary that you're pushing up against, and it's not going to keep yielding and giving way, because that's as far as I'm going to let you in. And
this is all thought. You're not saying that to somebody. You're
right.
Just thinking this in your
more
head.
That's the energy you're bringing to it. And when I worked with families that were dealing with children in the foster care system and adopting them, I learned a really wonderful term from a woman named Nancy Thomas, who worked with children with really strong problems with attachment. And she talked about having very clear boundaries that were like a steel box, and then you had a velvet lining. And I love that analogy because our boundaries are really important to us. Our comfort level is completely fine at whatever degree we want. And we can have a very firm boundary, but it's not like people have to smack up against it. We can have it be quite gentle and elegant and beautiful in terms of how people experience it and where there can be that grace. And I think the key that you said, Jamie, that makes all the difference is having it so well versed and practiced within yourself that you feel it in your body, so that when these questions show up, when these situations show up, you feel completely confident and competent in how you respond. That is what people really get. And that clarity and that firmness and that grace will do everything to make a difference.
Absolutely. And a lot of the work that we do with clients is, if you think that boundary, I love that explanation of how she described her boundaries, we sort of extend out the boundaries. So you're not waiting for the question that somebody says to you, so what do you do for a living that you can come here for 2 weeks and be able to afford it? You're already shifting the conversation much further back when they're saying, maybe, what building, what floor do you live on, so that you're not getting up to the place where you're really in what feels like a red flag situation. You're in a yellow situation, and really not ever having to let those conversations go to that extent where you feel backed into a corner.
Yeah. Jamie, we have a question that came in, and I want to make sure our listeners know if you want to interact with us on this, you can call in at 347-215-6138, and you can also email at listeners@sylviaglobal.com. So this listener wrote a question that I know a lot of other listeners have experienced or are concerned about. And what they've written is, I received a large inheritance a few years ago. Out of a desire to be seen for me and not treated differently because of my money, I have always been secretive about my wealth and avoided financial conversations in general. Now that we are getting closer, and my sense is that this is somebody who's significant in this person's life, it's a woman, I feel that I need to be more transparent, that I'm afraid that he will feel lied to and that I don't trust him. Do you have any suggestions for how to approach this conversation? So the picture is we have a woman who has this wealth and feels really concerned about how to be able to approach this with a man that she's been dating and getting closer to, and knows that she needs to address it.
The first thing I would say is you are not alone. This is a huge dilemma that inheritors face all the time. It's when is the right time to make a revelation, and do you do it in stages, and how do you, again, assess? Can you trust the person? And also assess how do you manage their feelings that there's been aspects of yourself that you've not necessarily withheld, but as you've gotten more intimate, you're feeling ready to share with him. So, Emily, what?
Yeah, I think that it's about safety, and I think setting it up right from the start from a place of, you've earned my respect, my trust, and my regard for you to this degree that I'm willing to take a risk and open up to you in a way that I don't with hardly anybody. And I want to make sure that what I'm about to share, you really understand, is a very big, vulnerable risk for me to do. And while there may be something in you that would take it personally, know that you have really achieved a level of trust in my life that you should feel really great about, that has brought me to this point where I really am ready to talk to you about this. So by setting the stage up front, you really bring that forward. And Jamie, we have a caller that was very much...
I want to jump in with one more. Yeah, with one more thing, if I can, really quickly. I think what was brilliant about what you just said, and I want to make sure that people understand it, you don't go into the conversation feeling like you've been lying to your boyfriend and now you have to tell him something. You go into the conversation as it's a gift of something, a new level of intimacy that you are offering to him. And then it's a completely different conversation than having to apologize for something you didn't do, rather than inviting him to share in a new and deeper aspect of your life. That's a completely different conversation.
And I often liken it to rock climbing, where when I go climbing with somebody for the first couple of times, I really want to see how well they belay me. How well can I trust them to hold that rope and that I'm safe? And, what you're doing here is you're saying, wow, we've climbed to a certain level that I'm ready to do a lead climb with you. I'm ready to do a multiple pitch with you. There's a level of intimacy there. There's a level of trust that I'm willing to put even more at stake here. And that's a huge thing, and it's completely appropriate to take your time before you do that. And, Jamie, we have a caller that's calling in, Natalie from San Francisco. Natalie, are you on the line?
I am. Hi, Emily. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Natalie. How are you?
I'm doing well. Glad to hear your voices.
Great
to
hear
yours. You. Thank you for calling in.
How is it for you to hear this show, and what is it that you'd love to share?
I just wanted to call in and just say, just a comment and just say thank you. I've been, working with both of you individually on my own as an inheritor, and everything that you're saying I've always identified with, and it just feels so wonderful to be able to have a forum and a place to be able to share all these feelings and questions and observations, and I really want to just call in and comment and say thank you for being open and available, and I hope that you can reach more people with all your wealth of knowledge and support.
Oh, thank you so much, Natalie.
And I am so grateful for your calling in. What we found, Natalie, it's kind of funny, and I know that you've listened to some other shows, is that people have called in, and it seems like when we started the Inheritor show, that's when the platform really shifted. People started calling in less and started sending in either email or fax or Facebook messages. And so even coming on and saying, nobody necessarily knows who you are, but I'm Natalie and I've dealt with the situation, is a very courageous move and really opens up permission for other people to hear it's okay to have a voice. It's okay to be who you are and to get help with it, and hopefully, to have that be a positive influence in your life.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate everything, that you guys offer, and it's just been really helpful in, I guess, connecting and identifying, and to feel like I'm not all alone in all this. Having dealt with this all my life, and just, everything that you've been talking about today is me, all these situations about dealing, how people look at me and how I react. And I just wanted to say thank you for for being out there and being a resource for us, because I know that there's probably more people out there like me, and they don't have to feel so alone.
Thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you for that.
That is, you've just encapsulated why we're doing this. When we were asked to do this show and to take on this commitment, this is exactly the reason why. Because we know that there are so many people who have nowhere to go with this and feel very isolated and alone, and it has a really powerful impact on them, and it has a ripple effect, right? Like when you don't feel like you can really stand fully and tall and beautiful and proud with who you are and what you have, that has an impact in the world around you. And then the opposite is true. You stand able to, I fix motorcycles because I am passionate about them. What are you passionate about? You have a whole other quality of relationship and connection than, I have kind of this hobby on the side that I don't really talk about. It's just completely different. So, wow, thank you for being here, for your support. And one of the things that we want to make sure our listeners know is that you all can also receive some great support in a couple of different ways. So before we come to the close, I want to share what we typically end with. Jamie, do you have them in front of you as well? Because
I do.
You want to read the evocative question?
Sure. We like to leave you with really specific tools. So we start with an evocative question, and today's evocative question is, how do you see yourself responding in a more effective way in your next awkward situation? So already planning out those inevitable questions, what do you do for a living, where do you live, what are your hobbies, and thinking about some ways that you can respond that will satisfy your needs. Our inspiring invitation then is play with using curiosity and turnaround questions to connect with the person inquiring in ways that help you assess their intentions and trustworthiness. Emily, do you want to talk a little bit? We talked about curiosity. You want to talk a little bit about that turnaround question?
Yeah, I wanted to give this as another tool. We talked about, using humor. We talked about turning it towards your passions, and this is another great thing you can do. If you're not comfortable with a question being asked of you, have a lot of fun with bringing that question back to the person who's asking it. So you have somebody say to you, oh my gosh, what building do you live in, and how many bedrooms do you have? You can just look at that person with just your heart wide open and genuine curiosity and say, wow, you are super curious about real estate. Are you in the real estate profession? Or, what is it that you know about that area of town that has you so interested? It is amazing how, small some apartments can be and yet how many rooms there are, or where, it sounds like you're really interested in this. And so you can answer a question with a question that brings it back to the person who's asking it. And the one way to have a lot of control in the conversation is to be the person asking the question.
Great. And our final tool, do you want to end the show, Emily?
I'd love to, because one of the things we do is we work individually with people with something we call the Rich Life Portfolio, and we also work with couples with it, and we do groups. And we especially love doing our groups for inheritors, doing the Rich Life Portfolio, because of how isolating it can be. And we offer this in Northern California, and we're excited because we're going to be offering our Rich Life Portfolio at Rancho La Puerta. We'll be giving you more information about that as that comes forward in terms of dates. But it's such an amazing venue, incredible place to really feel comfortable and to be able to have that anonymity if you want it, and also connect with like-minded people that are dealing with the same issues. So thank you so much for listening. Jamie, it's a total delight to have you here and being so well. And I do hope that you'll give us a chance to see you. And definitely, if you didn't get your questions answered and you want to know more, definitely email us at listeners@sylviaglobal.com. Come to our Facebook page, Wealth Legacy Group, or Sylvia Global, and like us. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Natalie, and thank you to all the listeners.